Hey guys, welcome back to How to Roll Dice. I'm Josh, and in today's daily dive, I quickly wanted to go over what my intent is when using my rating system to review games. I've already gone over the rating system itself, the individual categories, how I apply them and break them down. I'll link that video somewhere in here if you want to go check it out. But what I'm talking about is what am I actually trying to achieve with that rating system as far as the information that I'm conveying to you? It's certainly not my personal opinion based solely on how I feel about the game. I wouldn't need 5 categories to do that. I would need 1. It would still be 0 to 2, and it would be 0, don't buy this, 2, absolutely buy this, 1, I could take it or leave it, buy it if you want to. That would be the whole system. I wouldn't need categories. I wouldn't need to break down each individual rating and as to why I give it. It would be a much simpler process. But because what I'm trying to do is to be more objective, I do use those categories and I do adjust my ratings beyond how I personally feel about the game, because I have a lot of sort of factors that broaden my ability to enjoy games more so than some people might have in their own ability to enjoy a game. For example, I have this 4x6 play area. It's very large. It's nicely, sort of covered with this little felt mesh stuff. It's got bumpers, so you can't have stuff falling off the table willy-nilly. I have a large group of friends to play with. I have ample time during the week, in most cases, to fit games in. And when I do, I can play until the middle of the night if I want to fit the game in. That's not something that everybody has. Some people are playing on a small dining room table or a kitchenette table that's only 3 foot by 3 foot. Maybe they can't reach across the table because they're not 6'2" like I am, so they don't have large arms. Maybe they have some kind of a tremor or a mobility issue that stops them from interacting with small fiddly bits or cubes that need to be perfectly arranged on a loose board, or else they can get knocked around and skew and throw the whole game, into the trash because you can't come back from that kind of a mistake. I don't have any of those issues, or at least I don't have any of those issues inherently, but some people do. So I try to factor that all in when I'm assigning ratings to the different categories that I use. With American style games, there being a lot of conflict and just some games in general really pushing the theme of aggressive, frustration caused by you to the other players. That's kind of the silly fun of it. Some people are not looking for that at all. I don't love it, but I don't mind it. And so for me, that doesn't really impact the quality of a game that I'm playing. But to some player groups or to some individual players, that will completely take a game out of the running for even being purchased. So, and I do have some friends like that. I know them personally, and I totally understand where they're coming from. And so I try to factor all of that into my reviews to create a review that presents sort of the most universal rating for a game as far as I understand it. I'll adjust the scores starting from my own personal experience and then taking in the immediate experiences and input from the players that I've played the game with, and then also factoring in some real world conditions that I'm fully aware exist outside of my game room and outside of my game group. And I try to create a score that's as, applicable to as many different groups as possible accurately. That might seem like a lot, but that's essentially what I'm trying to do. And I wanted to give a quick example of this using this game right here. This is Spirit Island by Greater Than Games. This is a game that I've had for quite a while. It's actually a Christmas gift from my wife from a few years back. And there is so much about this game that is absolutely stunning, amazing, beautifully done, well designed. And I will never ever recommend this game to anybody from my own personal experience. And, if I'm just looking at my own sort of opinion on the game. I'm certainly not going to rate it that way. I wouldn't just say this is a 0 out of 0, don't buy this game, because that's not what my system is designed to do, right? So on the fly, let's quickly shoot down a review on this game. Nothing super official. Maybe one day I'll do a proper review, but I'll explain in this review, this on the fly review, why I can't currently do that. So theme and immersion. This game is beautifully thematic and fully immersive. The concept of the game is that the players are taking on the roles of spirit elementals living on basically a tropical island that has its own population of, tribal peoples that live on the island. And that island is being colonized and invaded by outsiders. Think of it as Europeans. So this is kind of a fun spin on your typical colonization game in that you're playing as the spirits on the island fighting off the colonists who are attempting to overthrow, murder, enslave, whatever, the tribal people who love and worship you who live on the island. It's a really fun spin, and it approaches a semi-political concept in a not so like punching you in the face kind of way. It's fun about it. So theme and immersion, solid 2 out of 2. Cost versus quality. The game has tons of replayability. It's not overly expensive. The components are very high quality and beautifully designed. So it's absolutely a 2 out of 2 for cost versus quality. Ease of use. The board is relatively small for how complex the game is. The pieces are really nice and they stand out at a glance. You can very quickly read the board. It does get a little messy with pieces at a while or at a point, but it's mostly spread out so you can tell what's going on. You can pick stuff up and interact with it. And then the only pieces in front of you that you need to really deal with with are a deck of cards and a hand of cards that you're playing to take special actions during the game using your spirit. So it's not really hard to interact with. I would give it a 2. You could lean on the side of a 1 if you wanted to say that at points the board can get a bit messy and it's hard to work with individual things because there's so much going on. But I think a 2 is fair here. So ease of use, a 2. So far we're at a 6 out of 10. And then I'm going to skip over enjoyable and I'm going to go to teachable. Teachable is maybe a 1. It could be a 2. The game does have some complexity to it. I would say that it's not necessarily that learning the rules is hard. It's that learning an effective strategy is very hard, extremely hard, the hardest I've ever come across. But again, that's me. I've also looked at a lot of reviews online, and there are basically entire websites or sections of websites devoted to how to have a strategy to successfully play this game. So I'm going to give it a 1 in teachable. It does actually seem like it's not just me, it's kind of a hard game to be good at. Base rules, sure, give it a 2, but as soon as you go beyond base rules and you actually want to play the game successfully, it kind of drops to a 1 because it's really hard to do that. This is a fully cooperative game, I think I forgot to say. All of the players are playing as spirits working together to defend the island from the colonists who are attempting to overthrow the tribe's members living there. And so let's say a 1 on is it teachable? So we're at a 7, right? So far, we're well into the category of this is definitely a game you should take a look at, if not game you should buy right off the bat. But then we come back around to enjoyable, the category that we skipped. And I would give this a solid 0, a hard 0. I'd give it a -2 if I could. I have played this game, I don't know, a dozen times with single player mode, like solo mode, just me, 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, varying groups, varying skill levels. We have never even come remotely close to ever winning the game. You get annihilated, like halfway into the game. I don't see how you could ever even have a chance. The level of strategy and synergy that you have to work out between you and the other players, you would have to spend an hour every round of the game coming up with the perfect strategy and then hope that everything goes perfectly with some of the cards coming out of the deck randomly that determine where the next colonists are arriving and things like that. And again, this isn't me. If you go online and type in Spirit Island very hard, you're going to find a ton of conversations and strategy guides and videos of people saying, yeah, it's a really hard game. In fact, don't even try to learn it on your own. Find somebody else who's played it to the point where they've developed a functional strategy and let them quarterback the game for you and your players for a while until you feel comfortable enough that you can kind of go out on your own, and then maybe you'll have a chance at succeeding at the game. That's a really hard game. And it's not hard, again, from like a crunch perspective. If you look up the weight of the game, it's certainly not the hardest game I own from a rules perspective. But to actually be able to win the game, I've never come close in probably close to a dozen plays. And so if you're looking at that ranking that I just gave it, that rating, right, we're somewhere around a 7, maybe even an 8, right, depending on if you want to be generous here or there. But would I ever recommend this game to anyone personally? No. Absolute 0. Do not buy this. You will not have any fun with it. You cannot win the game. You're going to love it for about the first 2 playthroughs because it's so beautiful and elegant to look at. And then you're going to stop playing it entirely and it's going to sit on your shelf and be a waste of money because you can't have any fun with a game that you cannot win no matter how hard you try, or at least I can't, and a lot of people online seem to have the same opinion. So if I were to rate this game, and I'm not gonna because I've never beat it, so I can't really review a game I've never even completed successfully. If I were to give this game a proper rating factoring in the world like I do and trying to be objective, it would be like a 7, maybe even an 8. If I were to rate it personally, it's a 0. So that's why I don't rate games just given my own personal opinion on the game. I factor in as much sort of outside information as I can. And that's what I'm trying to do with my reviews when I put stuff out there. And it's funny because every now and then I'll put a game out there and somebody will say, I absolutely disagree with this review. I don't know what you're thinking about here. And it's like, trust me, sometimes I disagree with my review, right? Like, but I have a system and I've thought about the system a lot. And to me, the system is better at determining whether or not most people will agree with the review as opposed to just my take on the game, which probably fewer people would agree with. And so to maximize the number of people that the review can help, not necessarily to get the most people to agree with me, because I don't care, but to maximize the number of people that would consider my reviews accurate and help guide them forward to buying more games, I try to factor in information and opinions beyond my own. And that seems to be working. So it is kind of funny that a lot of times when I post a review and people disagree with it, I'm feeling kind of the same way to some extent. Every now and then I totally agree with the system and it just works out, but that's not always how it works. But yeah, so that's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do with these ratings. I'm trying to give you an objective opinion sort of filtered through me, and taking in as much input as I can from what I know about the gaming community and my local gaming community and my friend group, as opposed to just a personal take. But anyways, that's that. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a little bit of a view into what I'm doing here. I hope your day is going well, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.